joining us for a new episode of I'll Allow It Nevada, the ultimate podcast for quick insights into Nevada's judicial education. I'm Anne Marie Mayu, your host, proudly representing the Supreme Court of Nevada, Administrative Office of the Court's Judicial Branch Training Unit. Today, we'll be delving into the Nevada Specialty Court Program, and I'm delighted to welcome our esteemed guest, Stephanie Gouveia, the Statewide Specialty Court Coordinator. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Stephanie.
Thank you, Anne Marie. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So let's start out with just some general overview of what the Specialty Court in Nevada is. So can you provide an overview of the responsibilities and functions of the Specialty Court Statewide Coordinator?
So to start, specialty courts or treatment courts are basically programs within the judicial systems that are designed to help those with addiction and mental health issues receive treatment instead of imprisonment. So rather than allegedly committing a crime and going out and getting fines or jail time for it, we are helping people get into programs that treat addiction, trauma, mental health, and help participants get back on track as productive members of society. So it can start as early as helping them get documents like birth certificates, license, things like that, and go up to helping them with jobs, education, family reunification in some programs, things like that.
Wow, that's great.
Part of my role as the statewide coordinator is to assist these programs with finding resources, connecting them with other programs and other grant opportunities. The Administrative Office of the Courts does provide some fundings to the specialty courts in Nevada. So we do track those budgets and make sure they are in line with the guidelines that the Specialty Court Funding and Policy Committee has put out. We also review programs to make sure they are meeting the national best practices and the 10 key components as set by the All Rise or National Association of Drug Court Professionals.
10 key components.
Yes, so there are.
Do I want to test you and ask you to rattle those off?
Please do not. But they are 10 key components, and they are the guideposts for specialty courts across the nation to ensure that we are providing appropriate treatment, that we are assessing participants, getting them the help that they need, and doing it in the appropriate way.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and get that up on a resource page so people can see what those are, because I'm intrigued what the 10 key components are. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like really specialty courts are more about rehabilitation and instead of imprisonment.
Yes, it's really a big switch from your typical courtroom setting. Something I think that all of us that work in the specialty courts hear a lot is I have never been in a court like this. You have some judges that get off the bench and speak face-to-face with participants. Judges that are, I think every judge wants to be aware of every case that's in front of them, of course. But with specialty courts, you are getting more time with these people. You're seeing them more frequently. A lot of times you're seeing them at least once a week. There's some courts that even have to do more if it requires that. And judges are being able to interact with participants. They know their family. They know the struggles they're going through. They can ask them, hey, you had a job interview last week. How'd it go? And that judicial interaction is one of the biggest pieces of specialty court. It's what sets it apart. And like I said, there's so many participants that come through and say, I've never been treated like this in a courtroom before. I've never felt such a personal approach.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So how do you think the specialty court program contributes to the broader goals of the Nevada judiciary?
We are working with the public to ensure safety, quality of care. We are trying to make sure that participants are being productive members of society. So as a whole, with specialty courts, we're seeing reduced recidivism. These people are not coming back in the system. So where you have heard of a revolving door prison approach where, you get out and you get right back in, but we have a really good rate of people who do not recommit. They go through a specialty court program and they are not back in the system. We've done studies that have shown up to 3 years after there's been no convictions, no rearrests. So it's really a way for the public to feel safer, to know that these are people that are getting back on track and getting the appropriate treatment to stay on track.
And becoming, as you said, productive parts of our communities. That's great. So it sounds like it's successful. I mean, we can definitely say that with the statistics. So what kind of advantages does this program offer to our judges in Nevada?
For judges, I hope that it's a new way for them to look at cases, to get to be a little more in depth than maybe they are in a regular case. Like I said, I'm sure every judge is trying to be as familiar as they can with every case that comes across their desk, but they have a high caseload. We have to be realistic about their time and what they can do with that. But with specialty courts, you get to know people. There is a connection. We've had judges that have gone and supported people that coach youth basketball programs and things like that. And the judges are showing up because they are connected to these people. They want to see them out in the community doing well. So it's just a completely different approach, I think, than you get in your usual courtroom setting. And I hope it's a nice, refreshing start for judges to be able to see more of the person than just the case. And I say that with respect. Like I said, I know the judges want to know every single case that they have. But with specialty courts, you get to meet families. You get to see these people graduate. You're there for some of their biggest triumphs in their lives.
That would be really rewarding, I would think.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you provide some recommendations for the attorneys whose clients may benefit from this program?
Attorneys sometimes are some of the first people that get to encounter these participants. And whether you're working as a defense attorney or a district attorney, you're getting to see their background and their history. And if you're an attorney on either side and you notice a pattern of behavior, whether it's possession or maybe trespass cases, things like that, and you suspect or you know that there is a drug problem, it's definitely something to talk to the participant about, your client, and to see if it's something that can be offered to them. A lot of times, the possession cases are easy, right? You know they have drugs on them. You see that they've done it continuously. You know that there's an issue. But we see these trespass cases, we see these petty larceny cases, and if you can ask your client, why are you committing these crimes? What's driving this? What's going on? And it's a drug addiction or a mental health issue, specialty courts is where they need to be. That's where they're going to get the treatment and the support to beat that addiction or to find a way to manage their mental health appropriately. And again, with mental health, we've had great success with people getting back into society, whether it's on medication or not, and being able to live a happy life.
That's great. So it's really about the attorney kind of being aware, asking the right questions. So if they do see something, if an attorney does see something, how would they initiate the conversation? And what steps do you think they need to take to enroll their clients in the program?
There's a couple different ways the attorneys can go. They may want to talk with the judge presiding over the case and or the opposing attorney and see if that's maybe a deal that can be made or something that should be brought up. They want to talk to their clients and talk about the benefits of the program. The benefits in the long run are a happier, healthier life, but sometimes right in the throes of addiction, you can't see that far ahead. So reminding them that in some of these specialty courts, you're going to get a reduced case, you could get a dismissed case. Those are things that might be more lucrative at that point. And of course, getting out of jail. Everyone wants to get out of jail. There's a time where people would say, you can't help someone that doesn't want it. But we're finding more often that if you can give them that structure and help, they're going to come out of that and they're going to want it. So really finding a way to sell it to them, if you will. Depending on your court itself, you may have direct contact with a coordinator for the specialty court, and you could have them do an assessment and bring that to court to say, hey, look, we've determined that they need this level of care, and that can be more persuasive as well to get them into a program.
Okay. So I'm just going to take it to maybe like an offender. Okay. So say I got caught drinking and driving, and it was my second offense. I go to court. Would the judge then key into that and send me to a specialty court? Do you think, does it happen that way too? Or yes. Is it simply the attorney?
Yes, it can happen that way too. Okay. It's definitely not all on the attorney. Some of the judges may look at that and see, and forgive me, I don't know the exact DUI law, but I believe when you receive a second offense within 7 years, you are automatically at least referred for the assessment, if not referred to the program. I know for a first offense, if your blood alcohol level's at a certain amount, if it's really high, then they are going to send you for that assessment. So even on a first, you could end up benefiting from a specialty court program.
Okay. That's interesting. So tell us, what challenges or opportunities do you encounter in your role as a statewide coordinator for specialty courts?
One of my favorite opportunities is that I've gotten to travel the state and see some amazing courts. If you're familiar with the layout of Nevada, we have Washoe County and Clark County, and everything else is pretty rural. Some of our rural courts have the most amazing programs. You have to be so committed when you're outside, all these county lines and you're living out on ranches, and you got to find a way to make sure there's internet access and counseling access. And there are judges and staff under them that are, just dedicated day and night, it seems like, to making sure they can find resources for people. In the Washoe and Clark regions, they are obviously also dedicated. They just have a few more resources at their fingertips. So that's been the best opportunity to me, has been meeting the people who are working these programs, seeing the judges that are so committed. It's been amazing. Some of the challenges are just trying to keep up with everyone, making sure we have the best practices, the best research, making sure we're getting those resources out to rural and other courts if they need them, doing our best to connect them and find a way to make it work.
That's awesome. I can imagine, running a specialty court would be tough anyway, even if you had all the resources and had an abundance, which I can't imagine anyone would say they have too much resources.
True.
But then to try and, get a specialty court running and up without the resources right there, like you do in the larger cities, right. That's just another layer of challenges, right?
A big challenge in the rurals is finding treatment staff, people that are dedicated to being out there. Of course, with the pandemic, a lot more has gone virtual. Yeah. Virtual treatment is a great thing, and I would not say to anyone, don't try that. But there is something to be said for being in person and body language and that connection. So sometimes it's just going that extra mile, putting in that extra effort if you are virtual to still make it work. Right. Also, some of the rural participants I've talked to, they're like, you don't know what it's like out here. You don't, you're a city girl, or you're a city person. You don't know the challenges we face. So being mindful of that.
Sure. So talking about some of the opportunities, are there any success stories or notable outcomes that you've witnessed from the specialty court program?
I'll tell you, I've been to graduations across the state, and every single one has been so incredible. You see one, you hear someone's story and you're like, wow, what can top that? That was so inspiring, amazing to hear. And then you go to the next one and you hear something inspiring and amazing again. So that's been very fantastic. One thing I'm very proud of that you are familiar with is the day court, Detention Alternative for Autistic Youth. We are the first in the nation to have a program like that run by Judge Bailey. And she will be presenting at our Nevada State Conference later this year. So that'll be a great opportunity for people to hear more about that program. It is unbelievable. And of course, when you're working with youth or minors, it always tugs the heartstrings a little more. So those graduations are really incredible to behold.
That is really great. I brag about Nevada all the time, just because I think that we have such a creative and innovative group working in the judiciary to come up with ideas like that and realize that that's a need, and not just sit on it, but to actually take it and execute something that can be helpful. That's, we're doers. We're going to get it done.
We are. And I see that great in every county and every court, that they're like, hey, we need a mental health court. Who can we talk to? And I say, well, this county has one, this one, here's their information. So yes, it is people who are ready to take action. Mm-hmm. I have been to trainings in other states. I've been to the national trainings. I've been doing this not in this position, but involved in specialty courts for about 7 years now. Wow. And I can tell you that when we go to these trainings and they're like, hey, here's what's hot and new, Nevada is on it. We are leading a lot of the nation in adhering to best practices, into getting the new stuff out there and really doing well. Yeah. And I think it's so needed in so many communities, but living here, you see it, you see the need, that it really is important. While we pause for a brief commercial break, I'd like to make a request to our audience. All Allow It Nevada isn't exclusively a certified legal education podcast. It's designed to be inclusive for everyone. Our aim is to connect with communities and provide insightful perspectives on the Nevada judiciary. If you find these episodes enjoyable, kindly share their experience with your friends and family. Your support is greatly appreciated. Okay, Stephanie, so how does the specialty court program collaborate with other judicial entities or community organizations to enhance its impact? We do a lot of work in the communities. Every court is partnered with a treatment agency of some kind. So you are working with people that are, boots on the ground, that are doing stuff on the weekends to help assist the communities, host sober events. There's a lot of foundations, both in Washoe and Clark, that hold monthly meetings of, the support network is a huge thing. So knowing that your community is supportive of your sobriety, that there's a place you can go. They even host things like the Sober Bowl for the Super Bowl so that you still have a place to watch the game without what some people may consider the more traditional, drinking part of it. There's still somewhere to go and have fun and be with people and still be in a safe environment for yourself. In some of the smaller communities, they do a lot of work because they really know these people. And if they don't know that person standing in front of them, they know their father or their mother, their grandparents. So you see people that are just in the community eating breakfast somewhere and everyone's saying hi to each other. You kind of, in those small towns, you know everyone's business. So now you know that this person's doing well and people want to support that. I have not met anyone that's just said, oh no, that's, going to just be worthless. They're usually cheering people on and saying, yes, this is better for all of us. Mm. No one wants a drunk driver in their community. So if we're reducing any kind of intoxicated driving, people are pretty pro.
Yeah. That's awesome. So in your opinion, what makes the Nevada Specialty Court program unique or particularly effective?
Some of our uniqueness relates back to things like the day court, where we're the first in the nation to do something like this. We have a women in need court in our Las Vegas Municipal Court. That's an amazing program and deals with women that have experienced trauma, women that have been sex trafficked or forced into prostitution. And it's a big problem in Las Vegas. So it's something that it's a need for the community, and it's maybe unique in that may not be as big of an issue in every other area, but we know it's an issue here and we have something that can address it really well. I think we get so effective because we stay up on all of these trends and standards. We don't wait and see, okay, well, how is this going to play out? We say, look, here's something new. Let's try it. Let's find the science and the data behind it and let's implement it. Like you said earlier, we are doers, so we're not sitting around waiting for anyone to review us and tell us what we need to do. We're going to look at ourselves, look at each other and say, here's the stuff that we can do, make us that much better.
Right. And we definitely see that with day court and, the specialty courts like day court and wind court. I mean, that's just another layer to really impact a smaller group.
Right. When you mentioned that, it made me think of specialty courts. A lot of people, I think, go straight to drug court, but it's so much more than that now. It's DUI court, it's mental health, women in need, juvenile courts, family treatment courts, and then veteran courts. If veterans get involved in the judicial system, getting them the appropriate treatment, helping them navigate the VA and the mess of paperwork that can be, making sure they get their benefits, and really helping them get that assistance that they are most definitely entitled to.
Wow, that's great. That's great that we offer those resources for everyone out there. So, Stephanie, earlier you had said something about, I don't know if I'm not going to be able to quote you exactly. You had said something about offering this program to people even if they don't seem like they want to be in it. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, does that happen? Because the judge is the ultimate person who says, I think you need to go into the specialty court program, right? Whichever that is. Right. They're really
The ultimate one that's going to say, yeah, you can be in it. Like, we accept this and we're going forward with it. They rely on, most of the judges do rely on their treatment team or their coordinators to do assessments and say, yes, this person has an actual issue. This wasn't a one-off kind of thing that they got in trouble. We find that usually the people that are coming through the system have more than one case, more than one incident with the judicial system that involves their addiction. Or some will even say, I drove 20 times before I even got caught with a DUI. So it's a problem that maybe isn't on paper yet, but we're seeing it consistently. There has been, I think it's a more outdated thought now, but people can say, like, well, if you can't help someone that doesn't want to help themselves. If they don't want it, you got to wait till they're ready. We're finding more that coordinators and others would go in to talk to these potential participants and they would say, yeah, I'll do this so I can get out of jail. I just want to get out of jail. If I agree to this program, do I get released from jail? And for some people, that sort of turned them off to that person. Like, they don't really want this. We shouldn't waste the money or resources on it. However, that person typically, if they're being considered for a specialty court, they're in the throes of either an addiction or maybe a mental health crisis. So they're probably not thinking about the best thing for themselves or that bigger picture of, hey, in a year, several years down the road, I'm going to live a completely different and better life. So making sure we're aware of our own biases, whether you're the judge, the attorneys, the coordinators, is really important. It's going to be a big show of support if you can say to someone, you may not think you're ready for this, but we're still going to help you. And that's a common thing with people who have dealt with trauma, that they're going to push away the people that are really trying to help them and do well for them. And it's kind of up to us to be trained and ready to say, nope, I'm not letting you push me away. We're going to keep trying, keep supporting, keep putting up that structure. Some of the newer developments from the best practices and things like that are showing that you don't necessarily want to just put someone in jail when they relapse. And a lot of people are kind of taken aback by that. And I think sometimes, especially in the judicial community, because that's, kind of the common, like you messed up on A, now your punishment is B.
Right. But
realizing that they need a therapeutic intervention. And that looks different for a lot of people. It can be inpatient care. It could be increased treatment throughout the week. It could be adding self-help meetings, 12-step meetings. It could be going on some kind of alcohol or drug monitor just to give you that extra support and know that if you use, it's going to be found out right away. But that's something that I think we do a good job in Nevada of keeping at the forefront of our mind, keeping everyone trained on, so that we're checking ourselves for our bias and saying, no, we're going to give this person support even if we think they're not ready. Because then we find that a couple months in, some of that addiction fog lifts, that mental health crisis starts to subside, and these people do want better lives. I've yet to meet the person who says, hey, I just wanted to be a drug addict when I grow up. Never met a person who said that. So usually if you can dedicate that time, that tough time in the beginning, you're going to find someone that says, yes, I do want this help.
And that's a really powerful thought. I mean, if you think about it, because especially when you're talking about a drug addiction, that has we've all learned that has an actual physical effect on you. It's and it's disease. Can I say that?
I was just thinking we're going to say the thing that can upset some people, and I understand.
It has been noted as being an actual disease, and I think it's important to, for me, I think that would help me with my biases to say, okay, this is not really this person talking to me. This is the addictive person.
Two different people. Yeah. And anyone who's seen someone in the throes of addiction and seen them truly recover knows what a night and day difference it is.
Yeah.
It is a night and day difference. You can completely tell when someone's dedicated and really working on themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to touch on the disease thing, because I know for people that's a hard thing to hear.
It is.
Especially when you have someone who has a chronic illness and there was never a choice in it. With addiction, you may have a choice at first, but you lose that choice. There's hardwiring in your brain that changes and takes over you. And like I said, no one wants to be a drug addict. So it just gets to that point and it spirals out of control slowly. In the movies, there's always that you use once and it all goes off the tracks. But in real life, it doesn't usually happen like that. There's always the one-off cases, but typically that's how it goes. If you look at the word disease, you dissect it, dis-ease. You're putting your body not at ease. And in that sense, it does qualify. And I know there'll be people that still don't like that, and I get that.
Right.
But I think the people that work in specialty courts are the ones that know that it's something that we got to look at like that and treat like that.
Well, because they've seen it. They've seen, the addict coming in, and then they've seen the recovered person going out.
Yeah.
And so they've seen that is treatable.
If you need to be convinced of specialty courts, just go to a graduation.
Yeah. Oh, that would do it.
That will do it.
Yeah. And sit and listen to their stories, I'm sure. So what role does the community engagement play in the success of a specialty court program, and how is it fostered?
It's important for the community to be supportive and appreciative of these programs. Shame and guilt are the headstones of addiction. There is no addict that I know of that it doesn't feel shame about what they're doing. So if their community is still shunning them or looking sideways at them, it's really easy to internalize that because they're already usually feeling it about themselves. So if they see everyone else doesn't want them around, cool, I won't be around. So having the community be out there and support that is extremely important. All across the state, there are counties and courts that host different kinds of summits, like addiction summits, mental health summits, and just gather the community and make them aware of what's going on. Most people know someone who has been touched by addiction or is someone themselves. So it's not always that much of a stretch to look around and say, is there someone here that, my loved one could be standing here that I would want to be supported like this? Right. So that empathy, I think, goes a long way in the community being there. And then, like I said, the participant, they want to be back out in the community. They're usually really disconnected. So to feel that connection again, that starts to ebb away at that shame and guilt.
Well, and maybe to give them another reason to go through rehabilitation and get better and be a part of that if they see that kindness and compassion.
Yes, it goes a long way. And it can be the hardest thing because addicts sometimes, it's almost like a toddler, right? They want to keep pushing and seeing what can they get away with. And we have to keep coming back with kindness and compassion and making sure that we, the workers, don't get burnt out on that.
And that's a huge piece of it, working in this industry, in this part of the judiciary. Is that self-care too. That's a huge piece. Yeah, that's definitely not specific to specialty courts. We hear awful stuff. We have to see people at their worst, but with specialty courts, you get to see them at their best too. So that's definitely the plus side. That's a good takeaway. So for any individuals interested in supporting or participating in the specialty court program, what avenues or resources are available?
They are welcome to reach out to me. Anyone that, if you Google specialty courts in Nevada, you will probably come across the state page. So I've received calls from different participants or family members, and everything, of course, is confidential. And I just direct them to their local courthouse. If they already have a case, where was it at? Do you remember, what county, what city, judge's name, anything, and help them track down the appropriate contact numbers to get there. Mm-hmm. If you do know exactly where your case is or just the area you're in and you want to find help, you can research that. You can look up my contact information and I can help you find that. But the help is definitely out there. It's just a matter of finding it.
Okay, that's awesome. Stephanie, is there anything else that you want to share with us before we close out this podcast?
I just want to reiterate that, honestly, if you're on the fence about specialty courts, go to a graduation. These are real people with real feelings, and some of us are just one or two choices away from being them ourselves. So just be mindful of that. Everyone has a heart and has feelings, and these people want to be healthy no matter what they tell you, that they want to be healthy. They want to be happy, just like the rest of us. And being able to support that and get them there is a great thing. So, yeah.
Well, and we want them happy and healthy too, exactly. Because that creates a better community.
Yeah, it's safer for everyone.
Okay. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I cannot tell you how grateful I am that you came in to talk to us today.
Well, thank you so much.
Of course, about the specialty court program. And we just want to send out a heartfelt appreciation to our guests and to everyone who has tuned into this podcast. Before we wrap up, here are a couple important reminders. For continuing legal education credit, be sure to complete a certificate of attendance and send that into jepodcast@nvcourts.nv.gov. And if you have any questions, topics, suggestions, or comments, we always welcome your input. Again, that can be sent into jepodcast@nvcourts.nv.gov. We value and look forward to hearing from our listeners. Stay tuned for more episodes of All Allow It Nevada, released every first and third Friday of the month. This is Anne Marie Mayu signing off. Take care, Nevada.